So this is an email we got. Can my sister-in-law evict me from a home I have 50% inherited ownership of? Forget about the grammar and everything else, dangling participles and everything else. It's like, well, when you read that question, I think, well, here's somebody who inherited half a house, and they did it the way it is very frequently done, which is to deed the property out of the trust or the estate, and they deeded it to the family members. That's a big mistake. You should never do that. Okay. You should sell it out of the trust, because if you just deed it out and you put people's names on the deed, and yes, I know everybody tells you to do, I know that everybody tells you to do this, you know, why? It's the stupidest thing in the world. It's just dumb to do it this way. But I understand you've been told to do it this way, so that's why you do it. Okay, now you're hearing different. Don't do it that way. Because when you do deed it that way, then they cannot evict you. Okay? So let's say sister-in-law, says, "Ooh, I want to it's time to sell the cottage. It's time to sell the house." And this guy, right, our letter writer here, let's just say, he moved the biker gang into the house. Well, you can't evict them. Not if he's on the deed. You can't even get rid of the biker gang. And you can't make them pay taxes, and you can't make them pay rent, and you can't make them maintain the thing. How about that? That's the way it is. When you're on the deed, you're an owner. Okay? Think of the most rundown. You remember, I hope you spent your Christmas season well and rewatched Christmas Story. Remember Christmas Story with Ralphie and Randy and all that, right? Remember that one? And the people next door, the Bumpuses. Okay. Well, imagine that you're related to the Bumpuses and they moved in with their hounds, right? And they won't get out, but they only own a 10% interest in the house. You own 90%. Okay. But somehow or other, the Bumpus cousins got on there. You can't get rid of them. You can't make them pay the tax. You can't make them clean up after the hound dogs. That's the way it is when you put people on a deed. Okay. It's significant. It matters. All right. So reading this headline, you'd think, oh, he owned 50%. No, they can't evict you. That was my initial impression. But then you go on to read it, and actually, the smartly, they didn't deed out the property. It's still in the trust. Well, can you evict them now? You bet your bottom you can. Okay. I can't tell you how many times, dozens of times, where you've got and it used to be all guys, and now it's you talk about egalitarianism, or I don't know, whatever. And it used to be all guys were the bachelors who hung around the house. You couldn't get rid of them. You had to evict them. But now we're getting more and more women in the same situation. Who move back in with mom and dad and won't leave. So it used to be a guy thing, but now it's you used to call them Irish bachelors, right? Because they never left home. They had jobs and everything else, but it was just too easy to stay home, I guess. Anyway, now more women are into that routine.